This is the Herd Line News.
So Gronk has not officially announced his plans for next season, but he may have hinted that he's stepping away. We're kind of waiting to find out if he's going to be there. He's already retired once, so it wouldn't be that shocking if he didn't play this year. Yeah. But Leonard Fournette posted on Instagram a screenshot of his tweets. I wonder how many 7 jerseys I'm going to see in the stands this year. And Gronk replied, I'll represent a 7 in the stands for you.
There we go.
So maybe we're getting a little insight, follow the breadcrumbs. He had 55 catches, 802 yards, and 6 touchdowns last season. Obviously, he is Brady's favorite target, old reliable. He has had an unbelievable Hall of Fame first ballot career. I wouldn't be surprised if Gronk stepped away. I know that he's not going to play with anyone else, obviously. He doesn't want to play with anyone else, which makes sense. Why would he? But Gronk's also shown the ability to step away from the sport, have success, and be happy. So I think he only came back for Tom Brady. Yeah. It's a lot of wear and tear on Gronk's body, he's had a lot of injuries. And, when he retired the first time, he was like, my body just can't take it anymore.
Well, he's not, he's lost a few steps, so he doesn't pull away from anybody. When he gets brought down, he gets hit. And you can't, well,
he's still a massive person. Like outside, maybe he's not the same, brute that he was when he was in his younger, healthier years, but he's still a huge guy to get on the ground. So you got to tackle him hard.
He is. I know he's still a young man. He's taken a lot of hits.
He has, but he is always in the right place at the right time. He's a very smart football player. Yeah. And Tom knows that. That's why he relies on him. And obviously their relationship is a huge core of that offense. And he was a big leader for the team as well. Obviously, Tom Brady had an MVP level season last year. I don't think he'll be okay without Gronk, but I'm sure that Brady prefers that Gronk be on the field, but we'll find out soon enough. Cornerback Jair Alexander will be staying in Green Bay, though. He reportedly agreed to a 4-year, $84 million extension with the Packers, which includes a $30 million signing bonus, which is the largest ever for a defensive back. The deal also makes him the highest paid corner in the league with a $21 million annual average. Now, he had a shoulder injury earlier in the 2021 season, so he only played 4 games. In 2020, however, he had 51 total tackles, 13 passes defended, 1 interception, a sack, and a forced fumble. And according to Pro Football Focus, he posted the best defensive grade and the best coverage grade among every player at his position in the 2022 season.
Well, if you take Aaron Rodgers out, most of their good players are on defense now. And I think he is as good as anybody they have. He's a great player. You got to pay him. There's just not, he's one of 4 or 5. He's not quite as Jalen Ramsey. I shouldn't even say that. I think Jalen takes a lot of big chances. He's as good as any corner in the sport.
And this is a premier position that you pay. This is one of those positions that's at the top when you're building an organization that's going to win and have sustainability. Yeah, this is one of those positions you have to pay.
One of the 5.
Everyone is looking for this.
Edge rusher, corner, receiver. Yep.
Yes. So the Grizzlies had one of the youngest rosters this season with no one over the age of 28, and they'll have some decisions to make during the next few years about who to keep long term. But their GM, Zach Kleiman, wants to make sure the organization does what they have to do to keep their young core in place. He said, we're not going to have any issues paying anyone we want to pay. There's never going to be an issue with retention here. We're not worried about small market notions or any of this or that. We're not going to have any issue whatsoever keeping together whoever we ultimately decide along the way.
Well, smart teams don't have bad contracts, so it's amazing what you're allowed to do. Like Golden State's really well run. Think about this. They've got Steph and Clay and Draymond and Looney and Wiggins and Poole. And, so it's like if you draft well and develop, it's amazing. You can bring Andrew Wiggins in, and it's like, how many mouths can they feed? We say this about the Rams. Well, everybody goes, the Rams have all these stars. Yeah, but 14 of their starters, they drafted and developed. Their interior O-line, their linebackers, their safeties. So it's like, it's Memphis is very well run. You get into problems when you pay James Harden
or Russell Westbrook
a massive deal at the end of their career. Then it's funny, then you suddenly can't afford a bench or anything.
I think that we're coming into a new era of the NBA, and you've seen it over the past couple years because people have talked about Golden State being a super team forever, and it's a nonsense notion. They're not a super team. They drafted and developed those players.
Yes.
The reason they had the ability to bring in a Kevin Durant is because they were so well run that they could have that core of great players and still have money to pay a Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
So you can be mad all you want about these teams that are able to have all these stars and make all these moves and have flexibility and be there every single year competitive.
They don't have a terrible contract.
They're well run. They don't take these big unnecessary swings in order to stay relevant. Of course, you should always be aggressive. Of course, you should always be trying to improve and, adjusting things if you don't reach the ultimate level of success of winning a championship. And even when you do that, you can't just rest. You have to see who's moving on. What kind of trades are you going to make? But to be a well-run culture, to have a base of how you treat people, how you are coached, you don't have panic when things don't necessarily go your way. If there's a big injury, you don't freak out. You're not taking these big unnecessary swings. Then you're able to regroup every single year. I think Memphis is building something that is very sustainable. They obviously have their leader in Ja Morant, and you saw that they can still make big pushes and have success even when he's not available. So they're gonna do what they have to do to keep this young core in place. And as they develop and grow together, each year they're improving and improving. Then eventually that's how you get to a championship, is don't have the panic. And you're seeing that with the teams that are remaining in the postseason now.
Yeah. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
As one of the hardest schedules. But what do we know about Green Bay? They don't have a number one receiver. The league is increasingly a weapons league. Look at the teams they face. They're going to be at a major weapon disadvantage. At the Vikings, game 1. At the Bucs, game 3. At the Bills, week 8. Rams, Dolphins, Vikings, end of the year. They are, Rams, Dolphins, Vikings are loaded at wide receiver. Really good at tight end. So do I like Green Bay? I do. But I think Detroit and Minnesota in division have better weapons. Chicago doesn't, but Chicago does have a number one receiver, Mooney. So right now, Allen Lazard is their best returning wide receiver, had 513 yards. Randall Cobb and Sammy Watkins, nothing against them. Those guys are 4s. I mean, Sammy Watkins has had 1,000-yard receiving season, can't stay healthy. Cobb's a slot receiver, had 300 yards last year, 375. So you've got to rely on Christian Watson, Romeo Dubes, Samari Torre. I think I didn't watch those guys play in college. Christian Watson's supposed to be something special. But you line up. That's why I think Green Bay in the front office, first 2 picks were defense. They look at that schedule because they knew who they would play. They didn't know when they would play them. And they looked at that schedule and thought, we can't win shootouts. We just can't do it. We can't do it in division. We can't do it twice with Minnesota or Detroit in division. I mean, DeAndre Swift, Hawkinson, Amon St. Brown. Detroit went out and got another receiver. They got some real weapons there. That side of the ball, they're really good. So if you want to know why they took defense, some of it is I think they look around and they think Aaron has never really trusted young receivers. We don't have an elite veteran receiver. We can't afford one. We have to win 24-21. That's how Green Bay has to win. And they look around their own division. They don't match up skill-wise with Minnesota. They don't with Detroit. And then you add in Tom Brady and those receivers and Josh Allen and those receivers. Dak's got good weapons. Rams, Miami. I mean, you look at the last 4 teams they play. Rams, Dolphins, Vikings, Lions. All better weapons. Now, I'm not saying, Aaron's not a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins, but we've seen this league now. Look at all the flaws Cincinnati had. Linebacking, coach was young, offensive line was a mess. They had good receivers. They had a lot of good weapons, good back, good receivers, good tight ends. So I look at Green Bay's schedule and you're like, that's why they went defense in the first round with 2 picks. That's why they went right there. That executive office knows Aaron's not going to go to a young receiver and say, best friends, 90 catches. They don't have a number 1. I'd argue Green Bay didn't have a number 2. They don't have a number 2 receiver. I'm being nice. Amari Rodgers had what do you have, 13 catches? Is he your 3? It can't be Randall Cobb or Sammy Watkins at this point in their career. You don't have one. Allen Lazard feels like a 4. He could have thrown to Allen Lazard many times last season. He chose not to. All right. It's good to be back. You got to tolerate me again.
Room.
I thought this was a good pickup for them.
This is a great pickup for them, and it's very interesting because he was We talked about last week a possibility to go to Green Bay, which I thought would have been a great option for Green Bay.
He would be their number one. Right. Absolutely.
Well, he signed a 1-year deal with the Saints. So he's going back to Louisiana. He will reportedly have a base salary of $3 million with the chance to earn up to $3 million more in incentives. So he's going back to Louisiana and will have an opportunity to prove himself healthy again before he hits the market again next spring. Last year